It's time for the Cope tier list. That's right. Today we are going to be discussing the fighters that have had the most famous Cope sessions and excuses post their biggest losses. Now, I really like a lot of these fighters, and I'm not kicking them just because they got a loss. It's the excuses and the sort of Cope that they came out with after the losses that I'm going to be poking fun at. And, you know, we may as well just get into this. The S tier is going to be the insane Cope tier. And the first guy that I want to put on this list is Darren Till. We're going to put Darren Till in the A tier. No excuses. Darren Till was an absolute master at making excuses. Now, I'm not going to put him in the insane Cope tier just because even though he would come out and say no excuses, you do have to admit he was pretty slick with it. You know what I mean? Darren Till would freaking sneak in an excuse when no one was watching, when no one was looking, no one expected it. And he always used to have the perfect phrases to kind of buttress his excuses, to kind of, you know, prop them up there and keep them nice and safe. And it was always what was the quote that he always used to say? But the better man won in the night. Remember? The better man won in the night. So Darren Till would come out here and he'd say some wild shit, man. Darren would say, you know, Whitaker stumped me knee and I didn't have my fucking ACL for 4.5 rounds. I didn't have my ACL.
If my knee was a little bit better, maybe things would have been a bit different. But, you know, it was a 3-2 fight for him or 3-2 fight for me. So I haven't left that fight thinking anything. He was the form.
Imagine what I would have done if that wasn't the case. But, you know, that was the case. Or he would say things like, you know, I feel like no one won the fight. We were both winners.
Listen, I'm taking it as a win for myself as well. I've showed me level. I'm up there. I'm only my second fight in the middleweight division. I'm already right there. I just think we both won. He obviously won, but in my mind, we both won.
And it's just, you know, we can't keep letting you get away with this, right? Or I think there was he tore his ACL on the way to the octagon after losing to Dricus du Plessis. So I got to give credit where it's due. Darren Till was just one hell of a slickster when it came to making an excuse. And I would love to see him back in the UFC. I always root for Darren Till. I think he's one of the most talented fighters to ever do it. People say Zabit is the biggest what if in UFC history. I actually think it's Darren Till. It's just that if he comes back to the UFC, even if he disappoints us, just tune into the post-fight press conference because he's going to be whipping up a mean excuse. So, gotta love Darren Till, man. The next guy that I'm going to put on this list is Chito Vera. I'm going to put Chito in the A tier. Insane Cope tier, I don't know, but I can't be the only one that was kind of shocked by the level of Cope and excuses that Chito Vera was coming out with after the Sean O'Malley loss. Him and his coaches even came out with the old, if that fight didn't have a time limit, we would have killed the man, right? Or they were going after Sean O'Malley saying, yeah, but if you go back to the first fight, the referee had to step in to save us. You took me to a decision. Like, this isn't Joe Rogan's schoolyard rules, okay? And also, he was talking about how O'Malley was all slippery and he couldn't get his hands on him. Like, every time he tried to grab O'Malley's head, he was slippery. Since when is Chito Vera the master of the Thai plum? When is he the master of the clinch game? I don't remember that. He's not even much of a grappler, and he's talking about O'Malley was slippery. I didn't expect this amount of excuses to come from Chito. I'm going to put him in the A tier. Ooh, now this is a good one. Now, people might not be a fan of this, but I'm going to put Jiri Prochazka in the C tier. Now, don't get me wrong. Jiri Prochazka is not a man to make an excuse, and I respect him because when he got early stoppaged by Mark Goddard, he, like the gentleman he is, he basically took it on the chin and he said he was all good with it. He's all kumbaya with it. And of course, the Pereira fans hyped it up because anyone that was calling it an early stoppage, they could just show Jiri Prochazka saying, no, it was good, man. And they would just act like, dude, Jiri himself, the toughest guy in the world, said he was out. He was out, man. No, he wasn't out. He even went on to say in a podcast that the reason why he didn't complain about the stoppage is because he didn't want to embarrass Mark Goddard. He was fearful for how embarrassing of a moment it would be for Mark Goddard to be put on the spot for the most early stoppage in UFC history. But that wasn't the excuse. Jiri Prochazka, that's right, Jiri, in his pre-fight press conference, media day, before fighting Alexander Rakic, Jiri's one of my favorite fighters. I never thought I would see this from him. Saw a different side of Jiri. In fact, Jiri was asked, you know, what's it feel like bouncing off of the loss? And I believe he had to say something along the lines of,
yeah, I'm happy to be back in the in that fast way, in that fast time after my last fight. And right now, here in Vegas, everything is settled. I'm healthy to the fight. Not like last time, but doesn't matter.
Whoa! Jiri Prochazka, man. Someone get the salt shaker. Get the salt shaker out. Yuri's coping. Dude, I cannot believe I heard that. The first time I heard it, I was shocked. Because, again, I don't really expect Jiri Prochazka to be that type of guy. But I guess he is, man. Jiri Prochazka letting us know that I'm good. I'm feeling healthy. Not like last time, though.
And right now, I'm healthy to the fight. Not like last time, but doesn't matter. And everything is on the great ways.
Oh, whoa, wait a second. Is that a I'm healthy, I'm ready to fight? Not like last time. And even looks off to his coach in the distance and chuckles at him like the whole Jiri Prochazka team knows that he wasn't good last time. That's a bit of an excuse. Yeah, that's a bit of a Jiri Prochazka dig. That's a different side of Jiri. That's not Samurai Jiri. That's salty Jiri. That's like, you know what happened Jiri. That's, these guys ain't shit Jiri. You know what I mean? Dude, I love that moment from Jiri Prochazka. He's basically breaking character. Not that he plays a character, but like, what was going on last time? Was Jiri injured? Was his arm falling off? Either way, sounds like a bit of a Darren Till-esque excuse, right? So I do really respect Jiri Prochazka for saying that. It's just that's the only time he's ever shown any of that in his whole career. And it's not on the Chito Vera level of cope where he's bringing up the referee stepped in and if the ref wasn't there, schoolyard Rogan rules. Bullshit, okay? If you don't know what schoolyard Rogan rules are, Joe Rogan believes that whoever's winning at the end of the fight should be the one that is favored heavily in the eyes of the judges, which I just disagree with. But let's get on to the next one. I hate to say it. I hate to say it, man. This is going to pain me. But it's Volk. That's right. I'm going to put him in the C tier. He had an excuse after the Ilia Topuria fight, I believe. I think he said something along the lines of, that wasn't really him that night.
Did I feel like myself in there? No, not really. You know what I mean? I think it's probably clear for most people that, you know, I probably didn't look myself in there. And that there's a few things that, you know, could come into play with that.
Oh, man. It wasn't really him that night. That's just an ugly one from Volkanovski. And he said he just didn't feel himself in the cage. And, you know, I was actually just listening to Max Holloway's Joe Rogan episode that they put out today. And Holloway was saying, you're a psychopath if you think that that was Volkanovski in there. And am I the only one that thinks that Volkanovski looked pretty good against Ilia Topuria? Like, he was outstriking him. He was looking like the faster guy. He was landing more. It's just that he has a tendency in his game to leave his chin open and lean his head back. And Ilia Topuria, with the power that he has, was able to capitalize on it. So Volk looked good. But Volk was saying, you know, it wasn't me in there that night. You know, he was bringing up the Islam Makhachev fight. And listen, that actually is somewhat of a valid excuse to say I got knocked out 3 months ago, but you're the one that signed the dotted line. You know what I mean? You're the one that made the decision to fight prematurely. You can't just after the loss all of a sudden start saying, you know, I got knocked out 4 months ago. And dude, you got KO'd because you landed a beautiful shot on your chin. He looked pretty good. He looked freaking excellent. If you ask me, maybe he wasn't just shooting any takedowns and maybe that's what he means, but a little bit of an excuse. And you know what? This is an excuse tier list, so I got to give him some credit. I got to give him some credit. Let's get on to the next one. Oh, man. Charles Oliveira is going in the A tier. I know people aren't going to like this because Charles Oliveira is a fan favorite. He's the golden egg for all the fans, right? And I love Charles too, but this guy can whip up an excuse. And because he's so loved, people will let it slide. And the excuse that I'm talking about is very similar to that of Volkanovski's. It's the, you think that I was there. That wasn't 1% of me. That wasn't 1% of me, I'll tell you that night. I'm kind of imitating his translator. I'm kind of trying to mimic the intonation in his voice.
When you talk last fight and say, you know, that wasn't you, you weren't there, have you ever had that feeling before in your career?
Nunca na minha vida. Todas as vezes eu lutei, independente de perder ou vencer, eu lutei. Quem é meu fã de verdade?
Never in my life. Never. I've never had that feeling. For all of you, there are real fans of mine that admire what I do. Did you see 10% of me there at all?
Can't say that I did.
I wasn't there. Sometimes you have no way of explaining. You don't understand why things are happening. There's a purpose for things not happening or happening, but I wasn't there, man.
If you think that was me that night, I'll show you what a real lion does when a real lion stalks down his opponent. No, that wasn't me that night. That was 1% of what Charles Oliveira is. The champion has a name. Really? Interesting. Because the last time I checked, when he fought a similar stylistic matchup to Islam Makhachev, who he claimed to, have only been 1% against, he got kind of pushed back and punked a little bit, and Charles Oliveira was just taking punishment, pillow-handed jabs from Arman and accepting bottom position and just getting sliced and diced on the ground a little bit. So what was that, 1% of Oliveira too? I don't think so. Okay, Charles got frustrated against Makhachev. It's a bad stylistic matchup for him. He couldn't whiff him, he couldn't hit him, and he made a mistake. That's it. Okay, that was Charles. This idea of it was only 1% of him, dude. I remember I was calling that out going into the Benoit fight, and everyone clowned me after. Everyone was saying, dude, shut up. It was 1% of him. Now you know. But knocking out Beneil Dariush doesn't really change the fact that, him losing to Makhachev was still a bad loss. And maybe it was the stylistic matchup. People act like, okay, the result of the next fight changes the fact of whether you were making excuses. This was an excuse that Charles was making after he lost to Makhachev, the whole 1% thing. I think it's clear at this point that the brothers, the guys from the mountains, they give him issues. And I wish that wasn't the case, because I really do like Charles and I want to see him win, but it is the case. It is the case. Let's get on to the next one. Salty Jamahal Hill. Salty Jamahal Hill. There was a whole salt shaker anthem on the Schmoes podcast this week. And listen, I like Jamahal Hill just like I like every single one of these fighters. In fact, we've basically got 3 of my top 5 favorite fighters on the screen right now. I like all these guys, but it's protect yourself at all times. But there's always a but, like there is with Darren Till. The better man won of the night. But
I just think we both won. He obviously won, but in my mind, we both won.
Oh, what's the but, Darren? Last time I checked, you didn't need to follow that up with a but if you weren't about to make a fat excuse. With Jamahal Hill, it's similar. It's protect yourself at all times, but it's obey my commands at all times.
Like I said, man, it's protect yourself at all times. But right after they tell you that, it's obey my commands at all times too.
Just an absolute bomb from Jamahal Hill, changing it up on people. Basically, what that means is, it means that, it's protect yourself at all times. As a fighter, I have the responsibility to do that. But if the referee says, obey my commands at all times, if the ref wants to trump that, he can, because the ref is really the guy that has the power in the cage. And if the ref messes things up for me, well, it's on him. It's obey my commands at all times. I was just obeying the ref, and the ref fucked me up. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know, because the last time I checked, Jamahal Hill threw a punch before Pereira after the timeout. So he was the first one to throw a punch. Imagine if his punch landed instead of Pereira's. What would he have to say? He would probably have to say something along the lines of, man, just protect yourself at all times, man. This guy's making excuses. He also said something along the lines of, the next time that happens, I'm going to disobey the ref. He didn't say that word for word, but he said this.
It makes me kind of think before I just straight up just disengage and just obey a ref's command like that.
Whoa. So Jamahal Hill's thinking of disobeying the ref next time, which would look like what? So the next time there's a timeout, expect Jamahal Hill to straight up sucker punch his opponent. Is that what he's saying? He's just going to straight up salt his way into a big sucker punch? Is he going to shuck the ref off, as I said in my video yesterday? I think I would love to see Jamahal Hill and Mark Goddard in the cage someday, because that would be one heck of a showdown. Mark Goddard trying to call a timeout and Jamahal Hill refuting that timeout. That's the fight to make, okay? That's what it sounds like, or at least he's going to put less into it, or he's going to pay attention less to the ref. Dude, it wasn't the ref. It's just that Alex Pereira timed him with a perfect left hook. I think Jamahal Hill is just salty about it. I understand if you lose a fight. I totally get it. It sucks. And as I said at the start of this video, if you lose a fight, sometimes all you can do is cope. It's really tough to come out here and just say, you know what? We didn't put on a show. Alex Pereira put on a show. I got sent to the Shadow Realm. I got made to look like a highlight. There's nothing to be happy about with this one. It sucks. This dude flatlined me in front of the world. And there was even a funny moment where he did a hold up, let me cook moment right in front of me. And I can't even sit here and act like that's the ref's fault. That's my fault for getting caught slipping. Next up, Sean Strickland. You would think that Sean Strickland, who is the rebel, the wild man, who doesn't play by our rules, who's kind of like Nate Diaz, that doesn't give a fuck about the belt. Fuck the belt, bro. I'm the belt. Doesn't even matter. I thought Sean Strickland was that type of guy. I thought he would be like, it doesn't even fucking matter, bro. It was a close fight. Who gives a shit? But instead, it's fans know who won. This is bullshit. Not a single person on the planet thinks he won, Drickus. I don't know. It's just not what I would think would come out of the mouth of Sean Strickland. But then again, don't take the I don't care thing from Sean Strickland as he's not a competitor. Like, Sean Strickland is still a really good competitor. He loves winning. And that's something that, it's easy to confuse because he does kind of have this who gives a shit mentality. Fuck everything, man. But at the end of the day, he's a high-level athlete that wants to win. He likes beating people up. He loves getting the better people in sparring. So it's not that much of a surprise that he takes pride in his performances and, is a gritty competitor or whatnot. But, a little bit of salt. Let's put a little bit of salt on there for Sean Strickland because I didn't think we would hear all these excuses or all of this cope. So, either way, let's get on to the next one. Oh, man. Here we go. Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith's entire personality is cope. Okay? Listen, not only do we constantly hear this man talk about how if John Jones didn't have arms, legs, and the height, and the power, and the speed, and the coaches and the IQ and the brain cells, I would be able to beat him. Or I think he even said yesterday in an interview, he was talking about the Alex Pereira-Jan Blachowicz fight. He said, if I had Alex Pereira's back, I had him belly down on the canvas and a rear naked choke locked in, I'd be able to take home $50,000 as a bonus. Yeah, if you had a locked in rear naked choke and you had Alex Pereira down, belly on the mat, and you had him flattened out, I'm sure you would be able to, but would you even get to the position to begin with? Okay? If my grandma had wheels, she'd be a fucking bus. That's Anthony Smith's whole thing. And he's also always coping about athleticism. Man, if I was just given a 16th of the athleticism of Ryan Spann, I'd be able to become world champ. And it's like, that's just cope. That is just cope. Anthony Smith thinks that his skill set is just far greater than everyone else around him. The only reason why he's not winning is because he's not an athlete. And I just don't think that's 100% the case. And that's also the same energy as if my grandma had wheels, should be a bus. Okay? Sean Strickland's not the most athletically gifted dude, yet he's a great fighter, and he's developed an amazing skill set when it comes to striking. It's just cope. It's just a lack of taking responsibility for the fact that you may not be better than the next guy, and the next guy might be able to beat your fucking ass. Okay? I'm fucking tired of this guy making excuses. All right? Who does he think he is? He's gotten destroyed by Alexander Rakic. He's gotten his teeth knocked out by Glover Teixeira. He's gotten a split decision to Ryan Spann. He went to a gritty scrap with Devin Clark. He's gotten beat by Magomed. All right? Who's he beat? Who's he beat that allows him to say things like, I just think if I fight Alex Pereira, it wouldn't be a favorable stylistic matchup to the ones that he's been having. He beat Jan Blachowicz, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Jiri Prochazka, and Jamahal Hill back to back to back to back to back. You got shut down by Johnny Walker. Okay? Where is this coming from? This was the easiest title fight of John Jones' career. Dominic Reyes, the dude that hasn't been able to win a fight. In his last three, against Jan, against Ryan Spann, against Jiri Prochazka, Dominic Reyes took 3 rounds off of John Jones. Anthony Smith had 1 punch landed. Okay? It's just, there's so much cope. And he even says things along the lines of, Alex Pereira is like a guy that found lightning in a bottle. He found lightning in a bottle, and, that's just not how the game goes forever. Eventually, you're going to come crashing down like the rest of us. He literally said, like the rest of us. That's what happens to us all. He's coping big time because Alex Pereira is actually one of the few guys that isn't going to lose a lot. Like, he's going to have 1 or 2 L's throughout his whole career. He's truly going to be an all-time legend, an all-time great. He's not just a 500 fucking level fighter, whereas, you know, he's in the same predicament as sometimes you zig when you should have zagged. That's not how it is. Alex Pereira is not just zigging, okay? Or, I'm sorry, Alex Pereira is not zagging when he could have zigged, but he just chose to zag, and therefore the chips are falling in his direction. That's not what's fucking happening, bro. Alex Pereira is a masterful striker. He is the best striker in the upper weight classes history, and he has good takedown defense and good survival instincts on the ground, and that's why he's able to be a world fucking champ. All right? It's not that he's just getting lucky. Fuck that. The heck are you talking about, dude? Getting lucky? So let me guess, on your side of things, when you're not getting lucky, that's because sometimes you just get low kicked 8 times by Rakic and crumple into the canvas and just crumple and be squashed into the canvas like an absolute bug. Is that what happens? Is that just a certain, you know, it's just an unfortunate thing that happened. Dude, this is not you slipping and stepping on a banana peel and getting caught with an uppercut. He acts like that's why he's lost his fights. He acts like that's why he lost his fight. Sometimes the chips fall where they may. It's like, dude, you losing to John Jones was not just Jones catching you with a head kick after eye poking you and knocking you out when you didn't see it. It was 5 rounds of utter domination. It was so dominant, I can't even speak of it. It's actually kind of sad how easy that fight for Jones was. So, like, this dude with the whole insecurity of being unathletic, and if I just had a 16th of what Ryan Spann had, I'd be world champ 10 times over. Jan Blachowicz is more athletic than Anthony, I'll give him that, but we kind of make fun of Jan Blachowicz for being crafty. And what does crafty really mean? Crafty means you're not the fastest guy, you're not the slickest, but he's got big ugly techniques and he's kind of slick and he'll catch you off guard with his speed sometimes, and it's just the skill. It's the skill, it's the technique, it's the experience. Jan Blachowicz became a world champ. Okay? Jan Blachowicz became a world champ. It's not always the dude that is the quickest and the most nimble that becomes the champion, bro. Or the strongest. That's not always how it works. Otherwise, Rakic would have maybe beat Jiri. He's stronger. He's probably a little bit more athletic. Okay? But that's not how it is, bro. Stop coping. Insane cope from Anthony Smith. Let's get on to the next one. Botched. I was whooping his ass in my mind before I got caught by the left hook. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, sure, buddy, sure.
You know, people forgetting things about you and Alex, that you've been beating his ass, for lack of a better term, the majority of the fight. I think a lot of people forget. I mean, first round, he might have been 10 seconds away from winning the fight in the first round.
3 seconds, 1 shot.
Yeah.
I was whooping him. I was walloping him. Coach Eugene Behrman told me you got to see through the other eye. And then I finally found it, and I found the shot. But, you know, Izzy is going to be in the B tier because I do respect him. Izzy is a good loser. He's a good loser. And we've seen him lose a lot. We've seen him lose a lot. Okay? So it's not necessarily hard to be a good loser when you're losing 5 out of your last 10. I mean, you lost to Jan. And he had a really good, graceful loss. He was graceful in defeat. He said Jan was the better guy. He was crafty. He said he was crafty. And he said, I'd rather, if I'm going to lose to anyone, I like that it's Jan. Jan's a great guy. He's crafty. I respect him, right? And then he lost to Strlckland, and he's been salty about it, and he's been, what a reign. What a reign. What an absolute reign, man. Just being an absolute smug guy about it. And he's lost to Alex, and I'm kind of talking about his loss to Alex Pereira, where he was saying, at UFC 281 that is, when he was going into UFC 287 where he KO'd Pereira, credit to him, amazing win, he was saying that I'm always whooping his ass. I'm always outstriking him.
This is my Eminem moment, my 8 Mile moment, you know. You get 1 shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. And this is it. This is it for me. This is, like, imagine what if I get it done? What if I get it done better than he's ever done it? What if I butcher him and beat the fuck out of him? Because I always do, but I just ramp it up now.
But he wasn't outstriking him. I love that. I love this idea of Izzy has always been the guy that's beating up Alex Pereira. No. You're not always whooping his ass, though, because Pereira was outstriking Izzy in the first round of their first fight in the UFC, up until the last 5 seconds. So the round goes to Izzy because of the damage done in the last 5 seconds, but Pereira was like out-techniquing him. Pereira was out crisping him. He's got crisper low kicks. He's got crisper head kicks. He's got a nicer jab. He's got a better left hook. He's got a better clinch game. He proved that in not only round 1, but round 2. So for the majority of the first 10 minutes of their first fight in the UFC, Pereira was the crisper, slicker striker. Third round, I believe Izzy outgrapples him, and so therefore he wins that. Fourth round, Izzy outstrikes Pereira, and Pereira's kind of catching his breath. In the fifth round, Pereira outstrikes him so badly, so dominantly, so clearly that Mark Goddard had to step in to save the day because he couldn't believe how dominant it was. Okay? So I do believe that Izzy copes with his loss or losses to Alex by saying things like, you know, the guy's just a beast. He got a crazy big old left hook. He treats him like he's some stupid fighter that's not really a thoughtful guy in the cage, as if you've got better low kicks. Alex Pereira has better low kicks than Izzy. Alex Pereira has a much better clinch game than Izzy. Look at them anytime they're in the clinch together in their first fight. Pereira is the one that's landing. He's the one that's landing knees. He's landing little uppercuts in on close range. He's landing little hammer fists. And of course, when Izzy lands a little pepper jab, a little pepper shot, you got Joe Rogan doing an aneurysm and having an orgasm on commentary. But for the most part, I think Izzy copes with it a little bit and says that it's just the left hook. It's the big boom. He's got the big boom and shot. You know, man, you could be doing everything right. You could be bending the styles and just totally be crispy about it. But as soon as he lands that big boom boom, you go out. It's like, dude, it's not just a big boom boom. Okay? It's not just a big boom boom. Alex Pereira, if anything, makes you look like he makes you look like you have the boom boom style because your only win was the big boom boom win. That was the KO win. Okay? So don't be coming out here telling us that Alex Pereira is just winning because he's got a big hammer left hook. Okay, yeah, sure. All right? He's more technical. It's time to admit it. Next up, we got Bobby Green. Bobby Green, biggest coper ever.
To more so make a boring guy exciting, you know? That's the real fight. When he first came over, that his school that he trained at in Russia, they just gave him vitamins, you know?
Dude, I'm putting Green in the insane cope tier list. Dude, you guys need to listen to Bobby Green in every single interview. He'll never fail to mention Islam Makhachev taking PEDs. Islam Makhachev and those boys, man, those guys don't even want a real fight. If I wanted to, I could stuff the takedowns. If I wanted to, man, I could wrestle with the best. No, you couldn't. Okay? Now, yes, he took an Islam Makhachev fight on short notice a week after his fight with Nasrat Haqparast, and I really respect that. It wasn't the best Bobby Green. I think he would have done better on a full camp, but like, he just has a cozy room in his head where Makhachev and the brothers stay, okay? Makhachev's kicking his feet up in there. Every interview, Bobby Green mentions Makhachev. Every time I've listened to Bobby Green on a 20-minute interview, at the 20-minute mark, it's about Rafael Fiziev and the acne on his back. He had acne on his back, and I said, man, where's that from? I'm not saying he's totally wrong. I'm not saying that people don't take sauce, but every single loss Bobby Green has, he copes about it big time, okay? And he'll always say things like, yeah, but that's not real fighting. That's not real fighting. These guys shooting takedowns, and he's acting like Islam Makhachev just grabbed onto him and sniffed his jockstrap for 5 rounds. What? Islam Makhachev TKO'd him within 10 seconds of it being on the mat because it was so vicious that the ref had to step in. So I don't understand this whole it's not fighting. Dude, these guys are literally pounding you into the canvas. Where does he get this from? So I just think it's funny. Bobby Green is the classic of he's wrestling and he's not a real fighter. He's like Nate Diaz. He's like the current Nate Diaz. I love Bobby Green. Just like I love all these guys. I love Bobby Green. I think he's great. I think he's funny. But he's in the insane cope tier. Okay? Oh, here we go. Khamzat Chimaev. Now listen. I don't really think Khamzat's in the mix. But let's just use Khamzat's face as a representation of his fans. Because they'll say things like, yeah, he had a whole year to move up to fight Kamaru Usman, and he had a whole head start where he had this long 1.5 year bulk up to middleweight, and Usman took the fight on short notice, and, you know, Khamzat gassed out after 2 rounds, but it's because he broke his hand. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he broke his hand, and that's why he looked like dog shit cardio-wise in the 2nd and 3rd round. Brother, don't understand this. Brother, I know you're critiquing Khamzat, brother, but he broke his hand, brother. What you want, brother? Like, I don't give a fuck if he broke his hand. Throw a kick. Okay? Throw a kick. Throw the other hand. And even if he did break his hand, he took down Usman in round 2, round 3. Where was the ground and pound? First time I ever saw Khamzat Chimaev stink it up on the ground. Like, Khamzat was literally camping, half guard camping on the ground. And the excuses that his fans give is, dude, he literally broke his hand. Just shut up about it. He gassed out after 1 round with Kamaru Usman. Lost rounds 2 and 3. And they're still coping, trying to tell us that, wait a second, no, he's still the same guy. You're just hating on him. It's like, he's a fraud. They don't like when I call him a fraud. A fraud doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that you didn't live up to the expectations and you fell short of them. Clearly. Okay, the expectations for Khamzat was not, brother, once he gets to the top, I can't wait for him to have close decision on short notice to Usman. Like, no, it was not, I can't wait for Khamzat to be in his prime so we can have a close, draw decision to Kamaru Usman when he's 29 years old and he's had a whole year to prepare for it. I don't expect him to be in half guard on Usman, who is hard to take down. Credit to Khamzat for taking him down. But Usman's hard to take down, and you have Khamzat Chimaev that can't do shit with it. That wasn't the hype for him. The hype for him was if he were to ever have a guy like that on the mat, he would run through him and beat the shit out of them and sub them. Kamaru Usman, who got his back taken by Leon Edwards, that got subbed back in the day, not necessarily known for amazing submission defense. Like, I would expect Khamzat to be able to finish it or something. Or at least not gas out after 1 round. And it's really unfortunate because Khamzat got sick back in the day, and maybe that's affected his cardio. And if that's actually what happened, then, man, that is literally a travesty, because that's something that would ruin one of the craziest potentials we've ever saw in our entire lives as MMA fans. But either way, his fans act like he wasn't a fraud. Dude, you're just hating if you're critiquing him. But I'm not hating on him. I like Khamzat Chimaev. It's just that he's nowhere near as good as I thought he was going to be. Okay? And the broken hand is not an excuse to look gassed. You break your hand, your gas tank doesn't just completely go away. Robert Whittaker fought Yoel Romero for like the last 3 rounds of their second fight with a broken hand. Wonderboy Thompson fought Kevin Holland for a large portion of their fight with a broken hand. Okay? Colby Covington fought Kamaru Usman for like 3 rounds with a broken jaw. Okay? Before he got finished at the end, it was a bit of an early stoppage. I'll be honest, it was an early stoppage. But he fought with a broken jaw. Okay? I've seen lots of people fight with a broken hand. So, yeah. Benoit St. Denis, I'm going to put him in the C tier. Kind of like Volk and Jiri. Let me just say this. Benoit St. Denis, and I'll admit it, I think he's doing a little bit of coping. Okay? Now, hear me out. We all know he had staph infection. He had a crazy case of staph infection where it was very visible to us. I know JDM has been talking about how he had staph infection against Gilbert Burns. JDM reversed Gilbert Burns in the 3rd round and looked fresh at the end of that fight. So even if he had staph, it didn't affect him in the same way Benoit St. Denis' staph affected him. And you can't just sit here and say, oh, here we go. Like, no, listen to me. Benoit St. Denis at the end of the 1st round struggled to stand up to his own 2 feet. Okay? This is a guy that like runs through people with pace and cardio, struggled to get up to his own 2 feet after a round with 0 adversity whatsoever. So I'm just saying, like, staph affected him, but I didn't expect the killer that Benoit St. Denis is, the stone cold legend, the warrior. I didn't expect Benoit St. Denis to post on his Instagram the next day, I was battling with staph and, I could barely stand up, because during the week of, we didn't hear a freaking peep out of him. I'm pretty sure someone asked one of his coaches, now this is alleged, but someone asked one of his coaches if Benoit was good, and his coach said, yeah, he's all good now. But after the fight, there's like 3 posts back to back for Benoit St. Denis. Yeah, I was barely able to walk, was barely able to breathe. And it may actually be true, but like, just posting about it after the fight, I just think that if you're going to show up knowing you have staph, then just don't even post about it. It'll just be obvious to people. It's just not the best look, even though he's being fucking honest. Actually, he's being honest. Post that shit. So the Poirier fans can know they didn't get the win they really thought they had. But either way, don't even show up to begin with. If you have staph, you're in the UFC, and you're getting close to the rankings, don't show up. I'm being honest. If you're really fighting through a bad condition of staph, or you have a bad injury, don't show up, because, yeah, you think that, yeah, well, I'm going to get respect for showing up and I don't want to be a pullout. But think about, like, the best champions. And I know I'm going to name Khabib, for example. or Umar or whatever. These guys they'll never take a risk when they are compromised that way. And it's smart. Some fighters try to just tough it out. Congrats on having the Donald Cerrone career. All right. If you want to have like a championship run, you want to show up at least close to your best. Now, a little bit of a messed up hand is one thing. A broken toe is one thing. But if you're struggling to have any energy, like what the fuck, like I know it's important to show up and represent, and Benoit is young. He's a warrior and all that. Like he'll be good. He can recover from the KO, but I just don't think it's wise to take these risks. Like getting knocked out, that's a setback. So yeah, but he was coping about it a little bit. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video.